I would like to invite, as a final keynote, Mr. Nick Marino Jr., Director of Social Change of TangoTab. Mr. Nick Marino Jr.
Woo! How's it going, everybody? You doing good? Are you doing good? Come on. Come on. Y'all doing good? Can I get everyone to stand up? Can I get everyone to stand up right now? Stand up. Act like you've done it before. Here we go. There you go. Get some energy flowing. You've been sitting down all day. Can I get one clap? Can I get two claps? I don't have my clicker. I don't have a clicker, by the way. Can I get a clicker up here really quick? Can I get three claps? I haven't even started and I already got a standing ovation. Thank you guys so much. You can go ahead and sit down. Got my clicker? Appreciate it. There we go. You would think I'd be ready. I've been sitting here for 8 hours waiting for this moment, and I didn't even bring the clicker. But how's it going, everybody? My name's Nick Marino. That is me as a kid. The mullet and everything. Hey, short hair up front, party in the back, you know. Hey, who doesn't like that lifestyle? A little bit about me. These are some of my brands. So TangoTab is what I'll be talking about today. These are the other ones that I'm involved with and own most of them as well. So let's get things going. If you do want to tweet at me, make sure you use "That's Just Nick." If you have anything bad to say, only send it to that one. If you have anything good to say, make sure you tag our company, TangoTab, because we want it to be everything A-OK. Throughout the presentation, it's going to be down at the bottom the whole time. All right, everyone? So, I have a question today. You've sat and you've listened to panel discussions. You have ideas. You walk this street and heard of good ideas, great ideas, watching people execute. 90% of people can build a good strategy, only 10% can execute it. Are you going to do something about it? But I'm going to be real with you. Not everyone here is an entrepreneur. Someone's like, that's bullcrap, I'm an entrepreneur, Nick. You're probably not. But you're a hell of an entrepreneur, you're a hell of a number two, a number three for a company, and you're gonna make change inside of that company. So when I'm talking today, if you don't have an idea that's not yours, but you're working for a company to take it to the next level, you can still have that same mindset going into it. So that's my family actually right there. My passion growing up was actually baseball. Who here had passions like playing cricket, playing football here? Anyone? No one had passions growing up? They all just like, I'm just going to live here and just not do anything, right? My dream was to pitch at this stadium for the New York Yankees. But in 2008, that changed. My passion of baseball actually brought me to the Dominican Republic, into the poorest city in the entire country, in Maradana. And one thing that I saw when I was actually in that country was interesting. I saw all these kids still smiling like crazy and having a great time, but they were playing baseball without gloves. They were hitting with sticks instead of a baseball bat. See, I grew up in a society that $300 baseball gloves were a thing. And if you didn't have that new baseball glove, you were looked at a little bit funny. But that just goes to show that our culture is very materialistic at the end of the day, but what brings you true joy? What I saw in those kids was the true joy of that game and what they were doing and playing. And we had so much fun. And one thing my passion of baseball brought me to was actually to my friend named LAR. And I saw something for the first time when I was speaking to him. I saw what hunger looked like. See, I never knew what hunger really was. Back in the US, we have these videos. It says, oh, for 89 cents a day, you can donate a meal to a child in need. And had this old white dude with this beard and everything, like walking around a very devastated area. And I was like, that's what hunger looks like. And that's what I grew up thinking. Hunger looks like actually us. And LAR told me a story, and it was about one time he was actually sitting there. The village where they lived was on the other side of the mountain from Haiti. Haiti gets a bunch of hurricanes and a bunch of rain. And the water was flowing down one day, and he had nothing to eat. And a chicken came down, getting floated by. They picked up the chicken, they cracked its neck, they defeathered it, and that's what they ate that evening for dinner, not knowing where their next meal is coming from. Now, when you're in business and you're thinking about things, this man right here is one that comes to my mind personally. We all have had these mentors throughout life. This is Hershel Burton. He was my world literature professor my sophomore year of college. And usually in a world lit class, you actually have to write a bunch of essays. But he made us think differently. We did stuff in magazine form, in video form, putting it into newspaper form, and our writing styles became different. And we had to think different about concepts and the way that we express ourselves. And that's when I came up with the concept of don't just think outside of the box, think as if there's no box at all. Many of us in business, we're very quick to say, no, that won't work. No, I can't do that. All of a sudden, you just put up walls. You put yourself into a box that you're probably not going to be able to get around. Just because you don't see that direct path there, I can still get to the back of this room by maybe cutting through a few rows, climbing over a chair, and then I can get back onto the path that I was on. Now, when I was in that class, he made us think differently for our final exam. Instead of actually doing writing a paper for our final exam, he said the entire class has to come together and we have to do a charity event. Because when you walk out of this room, you may never write a 30-page paper again in your life. I've never written a 30-page paper since I left that room. But you will have to work with someone you do like, someone you don't like. You know who that is in your company right now. Someone you do know, and someone you don't know. So we did that. We did a thing called Guitar Hero for Fallen Heroes, the video game Guitar Hero. We set that up around our college campus. People paid to play it. Now, after we did that, I actually gave up baseball. I was playing baseball in college. I had had 17 scholarship offers. I was committed to a school in South Texas called the University of Texas Pan Am. And I actually called the coach a month before I was supposed to go, and I told him, I'm not coming. Sorry, I lost my passion for the game of baseball. That's when these ideas of how can we take business and make a difference in society started to come to me. And I started thinking about different ways that we can do it. And when I was at the University of North Texas, where I ended up graduating, we did a thing called PL Pink. So the organization I was in was the Professional Leadership Program, PLP. So we changed it to PL Pink to raise money for breast cancer awareness. We carried pink jugs around the actual campus and raised quite a bit of money for a local organization. And most people thought I was going to go into the nonprofit world. And one of my business mentors, before I made that decision, sat me down and said, don't go into nonprofit first. If you want to, go to it later. Go into business first because you need to know how to make it sustainable. We all have our favorite nonprofits and charities that we may donate to, that we volunteer at, but are they truly sustainable? Will they ever solve the problem that they're actually trying to solve? There isn't a nonprofit out there that has. Is that crazy to think about? But why is that? See, so we started thinking about our society. There's wars. There's education problems all around the world. I know in Dallas, Texas, the Dallas Independent School District is struggling. There's disease. And in every single area in this entire world, there's poverty. So I started thinking, this is a picture of me when I was in college. Do we look alike still? I shaved for everyone today. You have it? But I started thinking about how we think about business and what we're being taught in school, right? When we're taught in school, we're taught like our revenues have to be as high as they can possibly be. Our costs have to be as low as they can be, and our profits have to have this huge gap so we can give bonuses out, so we can go and party, so we can live like we're on the Wolf of Wall Street, right? Have you seen that movie? He's on yachts, and he's doing all the drugs and crazy stuff like that. Our CEO has a TED Talk, and he calls out companies like Pepsi and Coke. If Pepsi and Coke or Nestle, if they actually said, you know what, we're going to cut into our profits a little bit, In the next decade, there would not be a world water problem. Everyone in the world could have fresh water daily. See, many big companies of capitalistic features, they will sit there and they will be reactive to problems rather than being proactive to problems. And I think we in this room need to be proactive to problems. We don't need to wait until that problem exceeds a new level. Do we all agree with something like that? You can nod your head, you can say yes, you can shout me down. See, there's a concept that in business, we think profit over people. And I'm not talking about just the end user or the end consumer. See, we live in a society right now that people are trying to change the way they think. My generation and the generation after me, we are thinking a lot differently about business. We're thinking about it in a way that it's people over profit. That is from your receptionist, to the person cleaning your floors, to your developers, to your consumers, to your distributors, and putting those individuals first. Think about it. If there's a person that cares about themselves more than they care about the people around them, do you really talk to them much? Do you want to be their friend? But if you're putting others first, think about how many more people want to be around you. You create a company culture that's completely different. Now, I can guarantee, because only one person is ever, so I always say guarantee, name who this person is. Jay, I might, because he saw me say this yesterday, or 2 days ago. But there is no one that will probably be able to name this person. Because when we're thinking about business, we shouldn't do it for the what. He was backed by the Rockefellers in the United States, which is one of the richest families in U.S. history. And he was being followed around by, as our president calls it, the failing New York Times. But think about it. If you're starting a business and you have money backing you and you have press following you everywhere, is that not like a gold mine? That's exactly what you want to have. Yet no one knows this man's name because it's about the why. Now, most people know who these two people are. These are the Wright Brothers, the first two people to take flight. They had no press behind them. They had no money backing them. No one knew that they took flight until 6 days after they took flight. See, the other guy was named Samuel Langley, and as soon as he heard that the Wright brothers took flight, he never tried to take flight again. Could you imagine if Apple and Samsung are going at it, then all of a sudden Apple releases the iPhone XXXXXXX97653, and Samsung's like, man, that's really good, we're done with phones. It's not going to happen. And to the startups that were just up here being judged, if someone ever tells you, well, the market's pretty saturated in that area, hey, you know what? There's 7 billion plus people in this world. You are not the first person to ever have an idea. I can guarantee you, because there's been a lot of people before that, but you can be the best person to execute it. You could be the first person to execute it too. Why? I'm going to go through 10 things really quick that every individual in this room needs to take into their office on Monday or tomorrow or whenever you go in next to the office. And think about these all of the time when you're working. The first thing that you should always start off with is the question, why? Simon Sinek wrote a great book called Start With Why, and one of my favorite quotes come from that. People don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. They don't care about the what. Who here is familiar with the golden circle? A very small percentage. Think about yourself as a human. The why. Where does that come from? That is your purpose. It comes from your heart. The next is the how we're going to do it. Right? We're going to build an app. We're going to build an actual piece of hardware. And how we're going to solve the problem. The what is the process of how it's going to happen. That's last. Not the other way around. I'm guilty of this. I've done this so many times of going backwards in. And I think we're all guilty of it at times, that we don't start in the middle. Why are companies like Apple so successful? It's not because they have really nice walls and everything looks so clean in their boxes that their packaging comes in is really nice. No, it's because they know their why. And their why is not to build great cell phones. Uniqueness. Who here has been on a road trip? Anyone? Who's here been on a road trip? See, I'm from Texas, so like if you look at a map and you see Dallas and then you look to the left, that's West Texas. If you drive through West Texas, this is all you see. Seriously. It's like you're driving, it's like I'm starting to count haystacks, 1 haystack, 2 haystack, 3 haystack. All of a sudden you start seeing a bunch of cows. I'm not gonna lie, we saw some cows driving to Candy the other day. I was like, oh shit. Oh, sorry, Sachi, I wasn't supposed to say shit. It's like, oh man, we see a bunch of cows. But what happens if all of a sudden you see a purple cow? You're gonna stop, you're gonna take out your selfie stick, you're gonna take a picture, you're gonna post it. It could have been the greatest time. On Thursday, when we drove to Candy and we went to all these great places and they were showing me around and stuff, if I saw a purple cow, I can honestly sit here and say that that would be the number one thing I spoke about. I'll be like, oh my God, in Sri Lanka they have purple cows. You have to go to see it. It's like this craziest thing. But why? We all look like each other, but it's something that's a little bit different. It has that uniqueness. Even the other cows would be like, what is that? The Purple Cow is a great book by Seth Godin, and it talks about standing out and the uniqueness of the product that you're building. It helps people remember. Now, one of the most important things when it comes to building a brand is your story. Charity Water does a great job with stories. Every single person that works for that company can tell you their story from beginning to end. Everyone, the entry-level position to the CEO. They are built on storytellers. Your stories stick with people. The stories of, man, this phone is terrible because it's not working. Man, this app keeps crashing. That's part of the story. It's also the back end of the story of why you're doing it. This room is filled with a bunch of social innovators. Your story and your messaging will stick with your consumers, and why? Every 60 seconds, 700,000 searches are performed on Google. 5.3 trillion ads are shown online each year. The average consumer processes over 100,000 words digitally. Y'all been watching I said y'all, so howdy. 100,000 words daily. You have to be able to break through that. Sustainability. I was just talking about nonprofits and how they're not sustainable. You have to understand how your revenue is going to continue to come in, and so you can build this for the long term. So when you pass away, your brand is going to last a lot longer than your name. Because who here can name all 8 of their great-grandparents? Can anyone in here name all 8 of their great-grandparents? The crazy thing is that they're related to you and you can't, and they were living on this earth less than 100 years ago. But if we build something that's great, that can last a lot longer. It's maybe a handful of names that you guys can name, or anyone can name, like Steve Jobs, or big names like that, Elon Musk. That those names might stand out a little bit bigger than their brand sometimes, but their brand will forever live on. Something that they built will live on a lot further and make a lot more difference than an individual can do. Transparency. It's simple. Don't lie. Your customers will find out. It's social media. It's a social media era. Product. Never lack on your product. The importance of building a quality product for your end consumer could make or break you. Awareness. You need people to talk about you. You need to be seen. It comes from a marketing standpoint. And usually I go a little bit deeper, but they have me restricted to only 30 minutes tonight. Tribes. Anyone here that read the book Tribes by Seth Godin? These are the most important people to your brand. I've heard one person actually mention the marketing funnel today, and I was really impressed. I was like, dang, girl, you said the marketing funnel? What's up? What's your name? No. But the marketing funnel is extremely important, and knowing how to get an individual all the way to the bottom of that and building out your tribes. How are you communicating to your consumers? How often are you touching them and reaching them and letting them know that you're still around? Because if you don't, someone else will. It turns out that tribes, not money, not factories, that can change our world, that can change politics, that can align large numbers of people, not because you force them to do something against their will, but because they wanted to connect. Tribes are influential to the people around them, and they will be your biggest storytellers as consumers. Collaboration. We all want to say that we want to collaborate, but at the end of the day, we always make it a one-way street to make sure that we're getting more out of it than the other person. No, collaboration is a two-way street, and we need to understand that. Understand it that both sides have assets, how to use them, and the benefits for both. Authenticity, big word. Making sure that you're authentic in everything that you say and do. So a few years ago, we had an idea, but we saw a social problem. When I say hunger, most people think of this, or they see these pictures, and it hits us in our soul. I know when you say hunger in America, in the States, this is what they think of, is homelessness, which is a huge problem as well. There's world hunger. There's hunger right here. I was standing about 10 minutes away from here in the soup bowlers with people yesterday that were dressed like everyone in here coming from work because they did not have enough money to eat. Hunger isn't just homelessness. Hunger isn't just a super, super poverty-stricken area. Hunger is all around us, and it could be sitting in this room next to you. It could be the person that served you at a restaurant. It could be the security guard that lifted the gate. There's a guy named David that's in Allen, Texas. Allen, Texas, football is like American football is really popular in Texas. They built a $70 million stadium for high schoolers in Texas. It's crazy. In this area, that's where David lived. David had a great job, but then he got laid off. The company was going down. All of a sudden, he had to make the decision of, am I going to put food on the table for my son? Am I going to pay my house off? Am I going to pay my car, my electricity, the air conditioning, whatever it is? It happens everywhere. In 2012, I got a phone call that I never wanted to receive. My mom had a stroke. All of a sudden, my family went from a 2-income home of my parents down to a 1-income home, just like that. I personally moved back home to live with my parents so they didn't have to go to a food pantry until they got back on their feet. Not everyone has that luxury. Since then, my mom is doing well, just to let you guys know. I know you guys are caring about that. She's doing very well and a lot better. But there's things in our life that happen that we can't control. She was just at home watching TV, and all of a sudden, she couldn't feel the left side of her body. The social problem. When we started this company, we thought we were going to go after world hunger. Originally. And like, if you buy a meal here, we'll donate it to somewhere else. But what if we thought differently? What if we saw a problem in our own society and said the people in that community could actually make a change of that? There's 46.5 million Americans that go to bed hungry every night and 15 million hungry kids. Man, when I saw kids in that line yesterday, that was heartbreaking. They don't even know better. They don't know where they're at. So we all know that guy, right? Gru from Despicable Me. That's our CEO. Aren't they the same? They look exactly the same. You don't believe me? Like, come on, man. Like, seriously. They are the same people. But the story of Gru is he wanted to take over the world, right? But then it was actually a story about love. So Andre was the CIO of Nortel Networks back in the 90s and doing awesome. And then he was offered, when he left there in 2000, he was offered to be the CEO of Yahoo. And he's created 13 companies since, TangoTab being his 13th. He had 8 exits. If you're familiar with GoToMeeting, he created that and sold that to Citrix. But after company number 12, he's like, I keep stuffing my pockets. It's not satisfying me as a business owner. What if I took my business acumen and we saw a business problem and we created a solution for that, and we took a social problem and we created a solution for that simultaneously? So at that time, he met this lady, Cheryl Jackson. Andre's been to 120 countries around the world, so he was thinking world hunger. Cheryl said, there's my food pantry 1.5 miles away from your front door. Come out there on Saturday. He saw people dressed like them, or just like him. But what they always did is they all had the same walk. It's because people hide hunger behind their pride. At that same time, David was actually going to that same food pantry. Now, the business problem, because if you're going to create a sustainable solution, you have to find a problem that you can actually solve. In America, $700 billion a year is spent in restaurants. Over 50 cents of every food dollar is spent in restaurants. Over 50 cents of every food dollar is spent in a restaurant. But yet restaurants fail at an alarming rate. 60% of restaurants fail within 3 years. In New York City, 60% of restaurants fail after year 1. Over 1 billion meals are dined out every week in America. The craziest thing is that people dine out all over the place, all over the world. So we created this solution, TangoTab. It provides a meal to a local person in need every time somebody uses the app. You search it. It will pull up your restaurants around here. You simply click Count Me In and then TangoTab it when you arrive at the restaurant. When you do that, we get a notification. Restaurants pay us to be on the app because we have an extensive user base. We've grown it over the years. And we keep track of how many people you and your friends have fed. To date, well, I'll go into that in a second. But the math is simple. If we stand together, hunger doesn't stand a chance. So we're able to put fresh food that all of us would eat on tables, because most soup pantries and soup kitchens will give you crap food, just like some random crappy noodles that are super processed and stuff like that. We don't want to do that. We work with organizations that are providing fresh produce and not beaten up produce, that good fresh kind that you can take a picture of and don't have to put a filter on. So kids like David's son don't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from. In under 7 years, we've donated over 2.6 million meals to people in need in local communities. So if you're dining in Dallas, we donate in Dallas. If you dine in New York City, we donate in New York City. So what are we doing about it? Well, I told you about product, right? Our product used to be ugly, fugly, we'll call it. It was bad. So there's some UX guys in here that's like, damn, I'm throwing up right now in my mouth. So we changed our product, made it look a lot nicer and a lot prettier, and we're about to release 4.0 here in the next few months. But we are learning from our consumers. We're understanding what they want, how they act inside the app, understanding that data and those analytics, right? Making sure that it's easy to use and that it's not crashing or anything like that when they're going out to eat. We launched Feed the City events. Our Feed the City events are now in 15 different cities every single month, 14 in the US, one in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe, that actually happened this morning. Which is really cool. And these events bring in literally hundreds of people in need, or hundreds of people together of the community to make meals for people in need in their own community. Brings in families, making 5,000 meals in 3 hours. All of a sudden, the people that are coming to these events become what? Our tribe. They're taking pictures and posting it. We create cool events like our Guinness World Record event to break the Guinness World Record for the most people making sandwiches simultaneously. We're doing another Guinness World Record on September 29th. We announced it last week. It's going to bring over 3,000 people. We'll get a ton of press. We'll be able to actually push this out to all different mainstream media. We have volunteers and users of the app that run the events in all different cities. They become passionate about it. I was sitting in the room earlier FaceTiming for our Dallas event. By the way, that's the first time I missed this event in 3.5 years, or the Dallas event in 3.5 years, to be here with you guys tonight. So it's a privilege for you guys, for me to be here with you all. But seeing all these people and the lives that are being changed because of a simple app. See, we didn't know what we were getting into because we were growing TangoTab just in the US because people are always dining out, right? So now we're across the whole United States, 335 cities in the US. But we're not done because the need is everywhere. So we're expanding internationally from Toronto, Canada. September 1st is Paris, France. November 1st is Greece. October 16th are some of your friends in Singapore. Because there's restaurants there. So those restaurants need our help. But more importantly, there's people that are going to bed hungry that need our help as well. Enhancing restaurants. We need to make sure that they have something, right? We have an awesome dashboard that provides so many good analytics. Not Facebook type of analytics that we're going to get in trouble. We're not sharing your personal information. But making sure that they know their demographics. Having SEO and SEM plugins so they understand where they rank in search engines. Making sure that we're tackling problems and answering questions that restaurant owners have, our end user, because they are the most important piece. We have reward systems, loyalty systems. We make challenges, which I'll go over, building partnerships with brands and collaborating with brands like AT&T, with religious organizations, making challenge pages, like we call it the fantasy football of ending hunger. So people are competing against each other to see who can feed the most people in a month or in a week or however long. Bringing these groups together. Making sure that we have quality content through the feed. Providing stories about people that are making a difference in the community. Everyone wants their 15 seconds of fame. If you're saying no, lies, because they said, do you want to do a Facebook Live earlier? You would be like, yeah, I'll be on it. Focusing on campuses, because students are going to bed hungry. And then launching Tango Charities, our charity arm itself, so we can build sustainable gardens around the country and around the world in food deserts, where there's not food, working with hydroponics and things of that nature. Now, what about you? Sitting here in this room today, you just listened for 8 hours to speakers from all around the globe. You can sit there and say, cool, walk out. Some of you coming from the Western Hemisphere, I call it the Sunday morning high, because when people walk out of their religious group or organization, they get on this like, yeah, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do it. Then all of a sudden they go to sleep and they wake up and they go back doing their everyday thing. Is that you? Or are you stronger than that? Are you going to sit here and say, the knowledge that I learned today, I'm going to take with me tomorrow, I'm going to take with me next week, I'm going to put it into play with my employees, with my coworkers. I'm going to pull a presentation together and I'm going to show it to my boss, because that's the way our culture should be run. Inside of our company and outside of our walls, because your company expands way beyond the walls that your building is in. We literally can change the world with one simple idea. Mother Teresa once said, if you can't feed 100 people, feed just one. I'm talking to a room full of people right now. If there is one person in here that walks away and actually says, I'm going to put into play what I've been thinking about for 3 years, I've done my job. Your one idea doesn't have to change the world. It's the people that are into it that can do it. Your voices, you just put something out there in their hands to make it something great. So if you change nothing, nothing will change. We all have our stories. We all write our own books. You're living in yours right now. What will your legacy be? In 100 years, will your great-grandkids know your name? Will they know what you built? Will they be prideful of where they came from? Just like many of you are prideful of where you come from. I'm proud where my family comes from. So what are you going to do about it? Do you think that we can make change? I'm asking you. Do you think that we can make change? Will you execute your ideas? Will you? Good. Because anytime that you do it, I'm wearing it right now, I wear it on my wrist, I live my life by it. No matter what you do, always, always, always live with purpose. And of course it doesn't slide. But thank you guys so much. It's an honor being here with you today. If you have any questions or want to talk, slide in my DMs on Instagram or anything like that. Find me on LinkedIn, whatever you want to search on. I'll be in the back. We can talk. More than happy to do that. So thank you all.